Welcome to the People Teaching People podcast. Joining me on the podcast is Kendall Breitman. I connected with Kendall through my amazing podcast editor, Simona Costantini, who has been editing the guest episodes of my podcast for almost 4.5 years, since January 2022. Simona is the founder and CEO of Volt Productions, a podcast production agency. She was the one who suggested I use Riverside as my podcast recording platform, and I made the switch in June of 2022. As is often the case, I got curious about the humans behind the tools I use. And in this case, I got curious about Kendall Breitman. I often have emails from Kendall in my inbox asking for feedback, sharing Riverside updates and new features, and inviting me to online workshops on podcast-related topics, often led or facilitated by Kendall herself. Kendall is the community lead at Riverside, a leading online recording and editing platform for podcasters, video producers, content creators, and other remote recordings. In her role, Kendall supports the thousands of creators in the Riverside community, helping them hone their skills, create new connections, and reach their goals. A people person to her core, Kendall's passion is connecting with creators and hearing their stories. Before joining Riverside, Kendall worked as a political reporter and television producer for news outlets like NBC and Bloomberg. Thank you so much for joining me today, Kendall.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be talking with you today.
I am very excited as well. And we've chatted a little bit before this, and in just some of the things that I've sort of learned about you in preparing for our conversation, I see that you've moved through a few different worlds. So,
hmm
journalism and television, and now podcasting and community building. And I'm curious what those earlier roles taught you about storytelling and about working with people in community.
Oh, a lot. Like I think that there's no better way to learn about storytelling than journalism, really. So, just some background is I started my journalism career in politics. That's kind of where I stayed the entire time that I was doing journalism, and kind of ended right after the 2016 election. And I covered the 2016 US presidential election for Bloomberg and then later on for NBC after that election. And wow, I think that like the best thing about it, one of the things that I would do when I was a journalist is I would go to different rallies, and our whole thing was that like everyone's reporting on what the candidate is saying. Like that's what everyone's going to be talking like going to be reporting on. What other stories can we get here? So a big thing that I would do is I would like go in the line for the people that were waiting outside and ask them about different topics, ask them about what they care about, ask them why they're standing outside in the cold to see somebody in person. Like there were a lot of different, I would go into everyone with a different kind of story that I wanted to hear. And really it would like, you'd get a bunch of different stories from a bunch of different people and have to figure out, okay, what is the headline here? Is the headline that people are scared or that they're hopeful or that they're like, what's the thread that's connecting all of them, even if they disagree on some topics? So I think it really made me learn more about humans, what's important to us, our lives, and how the US especially is such a giant country, but like how are we all connected? How do we all, even if we don't have the same opinions on something, like what common ground can we find? So that was, I think, a really important learning experience for me. But also I think I was very young at the time. I was like 22, 23. No, yeah, 23. And I think that it was an important time to also be learning that. So it was, the answer is a lot. It taught me a lot about storytelling. It also taught me like how to write a story, how to keep it engaging, all of that. But like at the core of it, it would be going to diners in local towns. It would be standing outside and going to the where people were going into the rallies. Like my whole focus was voters. It wasn't candidates, which I think was just such an incredible way to learn about people.
And it sounds like you were really about getting to the heart of the story.
Yeah, yeah. And so then, I mean, there's a lot that comes into play around a story, and it's about how you tell it. And I think that it's about giving grace to how people feel, being empathetic, sympathetic, all of that. And so, yeah, that was really like what drove me. The heart of the story and the people that are telling them, that's always been like my favorite thing, really.
Okay, so then we sort of look ahead. And oh my goodness, I have to like just say as well, you were so young, like 22, 23.
It was wild. Yeah, it was wild.
Wow.
I got like, so I was still in college and I got an internship at USA Today. And literally like my dream was to do features. I wanted to do like celebrity profiles type of thing for like Vanity Fair. That was the dream. And then I got a call from USA Today for a politics internship. And I ended up getting that. And literally later on I found out from my editor that he just went alphabetical order through the candidates and my last name starts with a B. So it was just very good timing. And or I mean, I guess good naming. And so then I kind of jumped into politics. So that was then. And then I went from there right after college to Politico. And then they were looking for like a young reporter that could, for at Bloomberg, that could literally just like pack up their bags for 2 years and travel the country. And so that's kind of, it was like 23, then into 24. So yeah, it was crazy really looking back on it, and such a cool experience to have that young. It was amazing.
Well, the universe works in strange and interesting ways sometimes.
Mhm.
Hey, so look at that. Having a last name that starts with B led you
Yeah.
like down this amazing and interesting path that
Yeah. Thanks,
wasn't
Dad.
what you're thinking. Yeah.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Dad.
Chad. Now, how did those experiences then shape this transition into the world of podcasting and community building?
So, like, there are a few ways that I would say. So, one of them would be as far as podcasting, like, I was working all the time in video and audio. So, I was doing radio hits. Like, I understood how that world worked. I also understood what makes when you're, I later moved into television journalism. And so, when I did that, it was a lot about learning how do you package something? How do you package a clip? If you've 30 seconds to air a piece of video that tells a story, what 30 seconds are you picking? Those decisions, especially on television news, are so important because that's what sticks with somebody. So it really was about that, how to keep somebody's attention, but also give them the information that they needed. Really applicable to podcasting, especially with clip making. And then just audio, how to like everything that has to do with audio as far as editing, understanding all of that. Then technically also how to run an interview, like how to talk, how to get, if you want a short kind of clip that you want to clip up into a bunch of different answers, like how to ask a question that elicits a short answer, how to ask a question that makes somebody go deeper, how to research and understand what's the question that somebody's been asked a million times and how can I push it to get something new out of this person. How can I form an interview to relax them and then maybe, because it's politics, like be able to sprinkle in then some hard hitting questions later. So really there was that technical part. And then as far as community, what I said before, just like I think that where my northern star when it comes to community building is that you need to know and understand the people that are in the community and that you want to be part of the community. And so a lot of that's conversations. A lot of that reminds me, I still think back to like, it's as if I'm back at a rally, but the rally's for podcasting. And I'm going in the line of people waiting outside and asking them, what do you care about? What drives you? What's exciting to you? What's hard to you? And I use that a lot, that kind of journalist approach when I think about community and community building.
That visual is so powerful. Like that idea. I mean, you could really apply it to so many instances, right? And getting to know your community, whatever that community might be. Like the people
Exactly.
gathering in a space, or as you said, waiting in a line and really having those conversations and asking the questions and listening to what they have to say.
Yeah, I think that listening these days is a bit is a bit underrated. Like I think that everyone is trying to share and everybody's trying to talk, and then you're trying to like wait for, like I even would find myself before in conversations where you're like waiting to say your inspired thing next, like waiting to contribute to the conversation. But I think there's just so much value in like in listening, which
Mm-hmm.
any of my friends that are listening to this would laugh because I like to talk a lot. But listening's also great.
You got to do a little bit of both.
A little bit of both. It's
Absolutely.
about a mix. It's a spice of life.
Yeah, and it's funny actually. I wanted to dive into this a little bit later in our question, but as I'm listening to you, Kendall, I
Yeah,
thought
we love
let's
it.
talk
Love it.
about listening. So, I'm in the Facebook group that Riverside has, and in reading the posts and reading the responses, I can feel like that listening happening, like that real authentic curiosity coming from you. And I'm sure you're getting all kinds of feedback from people in the community, like the celebrations, well, I read it, the frustrations, and like all
Right.
the stuff in between. So what has listening in community taught you about how to better support people in their creative and learning journeys?
I think that when you listen, it leads to understanding. And even if you don't completely understand, like it leads to just like being able to have that person, one, feel heard. I think there's a lot of power in somebody feeling heard. And then two, when you're able to like really listen and understand them, then you're able to actually answer those questions. I even think like listening to, and this again is also from journalism, is how the person asked that question. Like, are they asking for a color correction filter, or are they asking like, I'm struggling to get my studio set up and my lights aren't right and so my color doesn't look correct. Like it's about like what you can take away from what they're struggling with and what you can learn from it and apply. So for me, for example, I will listen to what people are saying in the community for feature requests, and then I will pass that immediately to the product team. I'll also write it down. This is a big thing. I'll write down who asked for what so that when we announce it, I can actually tag them and say, hey, that thing that you asked for, it's here. Because it makes somebody feel really heard and seen. And I think that that's what people in community are looking for. And we're losing that a lot with like online. You're just kind of like can just be an avatar that just throws your thoughts into the world and then kind of logs off. So I think that it's also just about saying like, hey, I see you, I hear you, I'm listening, and we're applying it. So that's kind of how I try to be. And that doesn't have to be just in community. I think that's like if somebody gives you feedback on your podcast or a course that you're doing, and then you make another course later on. I'm just giving this as an example. And then you write back to them and say, hey, I really listened to your feedback and let me know what you think about this. I put out this course. Like that's somebody that goes from just being somebody that gives you feedback to somebody that becomes a fan, that really admires your work, is loyal to your work because they feel seen and heard and respected for their opinion.
I think it's so true. People want to feel seen, heard, and understood. And that, if they are sharing that feedback, that you are actually listening to it. And I think so powerful. Such a great way to build connections by saying, you know what? You shared that you love this, or this was something that didn't work for you and this would work better. And I heard what you were saying and I took that into account and put it into practice. I think that's so amazing. My colleague and I work at a post-secondary here in Calgary. It's a polytechnic, and we've created a framework to increase student engagement in applied research. And we created this whole document and we shared it with everybody. And it was funny. Some people came up to us almost apologetically. They're like, so a couple things and da. And we had shared it saying, this is a working document. Like, we expect to make edits and changes and we want you to come and tell us things. But people were sort of apologizing. We were just so grateful. We're like, first of all, thank you for reading it. And thank you for coming and sharing with us.
It makes sense because I think that I was going to say, I think that a common thing that people will come like when somebody gives feedback that it's like you want to be defensive. We just announced a feature like a improvement today. We announced improvement to the snapshots that we have, and I did it in a funny way because like everyone, this is also like showing that people are being heard. The snapshots, like we'd like have an AI generated snapshot of your conversation. They'd be taken at like a specific time. So if you're closing your eyes at that time, if you're looking down, I see you like smiling and laughing because you've probably seen these snapshots.
Oh yeah, some of them capture me at my worst.
The worst. And you like think that it's like an incredible interview. You looked so good, and then you look at your snapshot and you're like, oh. So I announced it a funny way, like, hey, like those days are over. It's a sad day for me. I loved laughing at/with you in your snapshots, but that's over because we now are going to only do snapshots where you're smiling or with your eyes open at the very least. And so it's fun. And a lot of people were replying to it. And then somebody had like written, been like, next up, like have more people in the snapshots, which is fair. But in my head, I was like, let's just celebrate the now. But I'm like, no, I'm listening. I get it. Yes, that's something that I'll pass back to the team. We should have more people in the snapshots if you have 4 people that you're including, that you're interviewing with. So it's like, I think that, and then when they wrote to me personally, like, I hope that was okay to write. And it's just people automatically get defensive with feedback usually. And then, or not automatically, but a lot of the time do. And then so it means that when people give feedback, you're almost like hesitant to do so, you know? And I
Yeah.
think that it should be much more open for everyone, for both sides.
Exactly. And I mean, obviously, there's a way to give feedback
Yeah, like
and
I also don't
perhaps,
want to be
yeah.
like, this sucks. Like, no,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah, there is
But
a way.
but those people usually aren't also writing to you in the
Yes.
DMs being like, I hope that was okay that I told you that sucked. So
That's so funny. That's
yeah.
so kind. There are so many lovely, good people out there
Thanks,
in the world.
Dave.
Yeah. Now, I want to kind of dive into your role with Riverside. Like, I'm just so
Mhm.
curious, but I love the title that you have as community lead. And it seems to me, from my understanding, you kind of sit at that intersection of like creators and learning and the platform itself. But
Yeah.
what does your role actually look like day to day?
Yeah, I love the name community lead because it just kind of feels like I'm like in the front with like a torch. The community's behind me. It's just I always picture it that way in like a funny way when they gave me when they said that the title was that. But I would say here's how I describe like the day to day. I usually describe it as like a bridge, and there are two lanes on the bridge. So in one, it's the product to the user. And so in that way, it's communicating feature updates, like I mentioned. So mainly like feature updates, giving people education on how to use different tools, hacks on how to use something that maybe I know about, but not everybody that uses Riverside does, that kind of thing. It's also a lot about education, not just in the tutorials, but like we want you to be the best podcaster that you can be. If you're going to be recording in high quality and editing, like we want you to be creating something that you're proud of. So does that mean like I have a workshop today on how to host a better interview? Like doing those kinds of educational things from the product to the user so that we can make you the best creator that you can be. So that's one side. The other side is user to product. And so what that means is feature requests, like I was talking about before. If somebody in the community has a request, I pass it on to the team. Also, if we have a new feature coming out, I will find people in the community that would like to test it. Like, let's say that somebody posted about creating clips and how it's difficult for them and they really hate having to do it. Okay, so we have a new clipping tool coming out. I'm finding that person, I'm bringing them to the product team so that they can help us build the best tool that is actually going to be useful for you. So it's a lot of that. It's a lot of understanding storytelling, like we were talking about before, understanding why are people creating podcasts? What's important to them? What do they struggle with? What are their goals? All of that, and communicating that not just to our product, but also how we communicate to our users, what we say is important. It helps educate a lot of our product. So between the features that we're doing, but also about how we're talking about them, it sits in marketing because it's about just understanding who your users are at their core. Yeah, it's a really interesting, like cool job for somebody like me. I'm just very extroverted. I love speaking with people. And so I like to say that I have the best job at Riverside just because everyone else is creating all these really cool features, this really cool platform, but I actually get to like sit down with people like you and hear about how it's helping them or about their journeys. And I think that it's such a cool job to work in community.
It sounds like a job that's a great fit that really brings
Thank you.
your skill sets and interests and everything together, and it's so nice when we have those opportunities.
Yeah, yeah. Because when I left journalism, I was like, I didn't really know what my place would be. I started doing content writing because I was like, oh, I write for articles, but like, what do I want to do next? Maybe it's writing. And I didn't love that place that I landed. Like, I didn't love content writing as part, like, as for marketing. And then when Riverside reached out to me about a community job, I had no idea that that even existed. And so it was really cool to like read through this job description and be like, oh, yeah, this is what I like to do. This is what I want to do. So it's
Yeah,
cool to have landed in a place that you're happy in and for all that you're happy in.
that's amazing. Bringing
Yeah.
together kind of those pieces of the work that we've done or the experiences that we've had into this role that you didn't even know existed. It's
Yes, exactly.
amazing. It's
Exactly.
amazing. Now, you've talked about learning and really working with the community and supporting them with the learning that comes with podcasting. And there's always a learning curve that comes with like creating and sharing work, especially like publicly and out to the world, and then sort of
Mhm.
navigating the tools that help you to do that. So, what would you say are some of the biggest challenges that a newer podcaster might face?
I think that it falls into two. I've been thinking about this a lot actually recently. I think it falls into two buckets. And the first bucket is like the technical of it. It's what mic do I get? What camera do I get? How do I set up my shot? How do I like what room in my home to do this in? Like there's a lot of like a lot of those kinds of considerations to make. How do I edit? I don't know how to edit. What do I like what program can I use to do that? Like all of that. So that's kind of the technical. But then on the other side, I think that there's a lot of vulnerability fear. And I think that people kind of have both, but you mainly, from what I've found, kind of fall into one. Like people really feel like they fall into one of the buckets rather than the other a little bit more, but like a little bit of a mix of both. The vulnerability one is more like putting myself out there. Who's going to listen? Do I have enough time to be doing this? Am I going to be like, I'm going to be putting videos of myself out there for people to see? Do I have something to say that I'll be able to communicate well in a podcast? So there's that kind of, there's that one. Do you relate to either of them more than the other?
You know what? It really brings me back to the beginning of my podcast journey.
Yeah.
Well, and
I want to hear.
I still feel a sort of vulnerability, I think, in putting things out there. And it's interesting, like sometimes just a random person, you know, I cross paths with, they're like, oh my goodness, I've listened to your podcast. And I think, whoa, like that's scary, you know, in a way.
Yeah,
like
I see my face. I was like,
yeah.
yay.
Oh my gosh. But yeah, I know when I started, I did not have any technical expertise. And I mean, I started with tools like I just recorded on Zoom and I edited in GarageBand, and it was really painful.
And then she found Riverside,
and then
people.
I found Riverside, and it changed my life. Yeah. And yeah, that fear of like, what if nobody listens, but also what if somebody actually listens, and all that comes with it.
Yeah,
so
that's true.
I feel you. I feel all
you're like,
things.
I don't want, well, I hope somebody listens. And then somebody listens. You're like, oh my God, you're listening.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I definitely fall in the second bucket. Like, I don't know what it is about me, but like, I'm just nervous. Like, I think especially with algorithms and like suddenly somebody from my high school years ago was posting on TikTok and then it comes up on my algorithm. And I'm like nervous about if I ever put something out there that people are going to see that. But like, why am I nervous about that? You know? And then I see friends that are actually podcasting and they come across my newsfeed and I'm not like, oh my God. I'm like, wow, that's amazing. That's really cool. So I need to give myself a little bit more grace as far as like that other people might think that for me, but also give myself grace into the idea that like I shouldn't care about what they think. But yeah,
easier said than done.
Yeah, well, it's definitely 2 feet in bucket number 2. I think also working at Riverside and like knowing the tech is helpful for not putting me in the first bucket.
Yeah. Oh, that is just to have that skill set is amazing. Like I have so many stories about the struggles that I experienced earlier on.
Oh,
is like
we still do. I mean,
okay.
like before we started recording, I told you that like, even when you have a whole setup, like there was somebody drilling in this building today, and I like got on this call. I'm like, can you hear that? I've like noise canceled my headphones so that I can't. But yeah, so even if you know the tech, like then something happens and you accidentally unplug something, and then it's an hour trying to figure out where it was plugged in the first place. So we've all been there.
Right. It's the learning, the always learning.
The journey.
The journey. And then I was curious too, like, do you see a difference with people who are more experienced, or are those two buckets still very much what the more experienced podcaster is sort of working through as well?
You mean as far as like vulnerability or tech?
Yeah, like is that the same sort of thing, or do they have different places where they're getting stuck, do you find, or what are you noticing in the community?
I think that the vulnerability part, like the tech, once you have like your setup, I think that then people start to get crazy with it. They're like, oh my gosh, I have this camera and I love it. What if I put a teleprompter on it? What if and then suddenly they like turn an entire like bedroom of their home into a studio, and then like their partner's like, wow, that room would have been nice to use as a family. But no, as far as the vulnerability, I think that it really like it stays. I think that people get more confident as they go. They believe in themselves more as they go. They know more about who they are as an interviewer. I think there's definitely, and you can probably vouch for me on this, but like there's definitely a difference between your first interview and you're like so nervous and you have your questions all written out and everything. And then as you keep going, you like get more confidence in yourself. But I do think that no matter how long you've been podcasting, I think that there is a level of vulnerability. I do think that there is also like a feeling like if somebody says, I listen to your podcast, or they say, somebody that I was talking to was at a podcast for like 8 years, and he's like, I saw somebody on the street with my merch and it was so exciting. And like that, I think that everyone, no matter how long you've been doing it, craves those moments of validation, because especially if you're recording remotely, like you finish recording and you're like, all right, hope they like it, you know. Like, so yeah, I think that it gets better with time, but I don't think it goes away.
I'm 6 years in and I definitely still have that vulnerability piece for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I sit here in my basement. It's like my secret life. I record my podcast here. Now, you shared with me some of your most frequently asked questions. And
Mm.
one of the ones that you shared that I was really curious about is around podcast growth. And what advice do you give people when it comes to podcast growth and their podcasts?
So I think that like a slept on idea for podcast growth is guesting on other podcasts. I can't tell you how many podcasts I found by listening to a podcast and somebody else was their guest and they also had one. I'm saying this because like a lot of people focus on posting on social media, which is great, but like to take somebody out of the scroll into then listening, there are people that I follow on social media that have podcasts that I still haven't listened to the podcast, maybe because I like their clips and I'll listen to that, but it's such a different experience of scrolling to then like, okay, now I'm going to stop, I'm going to put my headphones on, I'm going to listen to a whole podcast, you know. I think that when you catch people when they're already in that zone, when they're already podcasting, like listening, I think it's easier for them to get acquainted with your voice, the way that they like the way that it sounds in their headphones, the way that they like are able to save an episode of yours. I think that that's a really great way to grow. I also think that video and YouTube is a great way to grow. And a secret here that I will say, maybe not a secret, but like a tip, is that if you are doing your podcast on putting on YouTube, I recommend cutting out a section of it, like 10 minutes long, and putting that as a separate clip. Because right now we focus a lot on 30 to 90-second clips that are like the shorts, and then we focus on the long form. But I'm seeing more and more that people are finding podcasts through the shorter form, like the medium form video. So if you do, I just did a newsletter on this. If you go on and you find like a keyword that your listeners are searching for, maybe for like it'd be like how to build community, then my tip here is to ask one question in your podcast, say, Kendall, how step by step, how do you build a community? Walk me through it. Then take that answer, maybe it's a 5-minute answer, use that as a standalone, make it how to build a community, step-by-step guide, put that on YouTube, and that's super searchable. It's really easy for people to discover on there, and then that can drive people to end up looking at your longer form stuff. So 1, guesting on other podcasts, 2, making use of like medium form content. Those are my 2 big recommendations right now.
Well, those are fantastic pieces of advice. And I would say that I have guested on a couple podcasts, but have not really made that like something of focus. So I love that. I'm learning as we're talking. And
Yay, good.
YouTube, I've done the exact thing that you say that most people do. Well, Simona, my podcast editor who connected us, she encouraged me to share video, which when I first started working with her and doing that, I was like, oh, but
yeah, talk about vulnerability.
So yeah, I post the whole episode and then shorts, but not sort of that medium piece. So that is really intriguing.
Yeah,
well,
try it out. I've seen that people have found that those types of videos, because shorts they also put them on like a totally separate part of the site. So if somebody's like kind of going through YouTube and they're in more of like they're less shorts and more in like the video mode, it's a really good way to meet them there.
I like that. Thank you
Try it
very
out.
much for those secret tips.
Yeah.
Now, Riverside is kind of known to be like a podcast recording platform, but I know that there's people that use it in ways beyond just recording podcasts.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering, like, what are some of those different ways that we can kind of leverage what Riverside is all about? So maybe even sort of speaking to and highlighting some of the features that makes Riverside the awesome platform that it is.
Absolutely. Well, I'd say that like some really cool use cases just off the bat are course creators. So people can create courses using Riverside. people who are also course creators, or coaches, a lot of the time will record their calls with their clients, and even just using those transcripts and being able to put them into ChatGPT and say, like, what are my insights here? How can I be refining my messaging to be able to reach more people, or to be able to speak directly to the people that I'm trying to coach or consult? Really cool ideas. A lot of CEOs and executives are really using them for thought leadership. So you could even like record a video of just yourself talking about where you see the industry going, cut that into clips and use that for LinkedIn. Another thing that people are doing, like marketers, will like there's a lot of great content that comes from testimonials and users. So if you can go on a call and record that call and just have people say, like, I've loved this product, it helped me do this, clip that, put that on social media, like that's really great for potential new customers to be able to see. So for I record all of our tutorials on there. So if we have a new feature, like I'll record the new feature, screenshotting and all of that through Riverside, like a walkthrough of how to do it. So there are a lot of different use cases you can do. You can like record in high quality, edit, make clip. We have AI generated clips as well. You can make your own clips, get transcripts, but then a lot of like very cool, easy tools for people who don't edit. So, or don't know how to edit. So you can remove filler words in a click. You can remove pauses in a click. You can add captions, style them. Like it's just being able to make video, even if you're not an editor, I think is just a very cool way of using Riverside, and something that opens up video for a lot more people, because you don't have to be an editor to be able to put your voice out there, especially if you like own a business or a marketer or a course creator. I would say like those are the three that I'm seeing some really cool stuff in.
And I can
Yeah.
attest, as someone who is not super technical when it comes to the world of editing, who has not had any sort of formal training, Riverside is very user friendly. As a mom of 3 teenage boys sitting in my basement, if I can manage it, like it's certainly very accessible to people. And one thing, when people come to me and they're like, oh, I'm thinking of starting a podcast, like I always talk about the ease of use of Riverside, but also the support. Sometimes you
Awesome.
get a platform, or you invest in a digital tool of some sort, and it's great, but if you bump into anything, or you're needing to troubleshoot something, or you're looking for support in some way, it's like impossible to get that support. So I'm like, not only is it amazing, but if you have a question, there's like a huge library of video resources, but you can also post in the Facebook group and get some support from Riverside or the community. Like people are so lovely and helpful as you're figuring things out.
So see, example, first of all, love to hear this. But second of all, if you are a marketer or working in a small business or own your own business and you have calls with users like what just happened, like take that, clip it, putting it on social media is so powerful. So yeah, on that note, clip that and send it to me, because I'd love to post that. But
You've got
no,
it.
it's
No,
just
it comes from
there's
an authentic place.
yeah,
Yes.
and it's just like it's fun to also be able
Mhm.
to like there's so much power in hearing other people that are using product and saying how much they love it. And so I think I think that people think about Riverside a lot for podcasting, and that is a lot of people are using it for podcasting. But I've found so many times that there are people that are course creators also, they have a podcast, and they're like, "Oh, I recorded my podcast on Zoom, and I'm gonna my course." And then I'm like, oh, why didn't you use Riverside? And they're like, oh my God. I think that people just end up like thinking of tools for one thing, but there's so much that you could be doing with it. So yeah.
No, it's so true. Even when we've spoken before, you're like, oh, you could totally use Riverside for creating online courses or recording things. And I was thinking, of course. Like it just, I don't know why I wasn't thinking of that. So I really wanted
Yeah.
to dive into that with you today. Now, with some of these easy to use features, like Riverside does utilize the technology of AI, and it's becoming such an integral part for so many of us with our creative workflows. It can be very helpful. And in many ways, though, people are still trying to wrap their heads around it and figure things out. So I'm curious about how Riverside is using AI to support creators and in the work that they're doing.
Yeah. So I think that like a main thing that I really love about Riverside is that when you make this has started with recording. And this is what I would say when we had just recording, because we've really expanded in the last few years. like when you're able to have people tell their stories without needing $1 million studio, like from your basement, from this room in my office, you know what I mean? You're able to open up more stories, which makes, like, I think the stories are how we connect. It's how more people are able to connect with people. And it's also, and when we open that up, you're able to hear more diverse stories. You're able to learn from more people. It's able to make you more curious and get answers from more people, which I think is really amazing. And so as far as like the AI tools, I think that it's on that similar path. So if you don't need to be a trained audio editor, but you can still use these AI tools to maybe fix your audio, like with our Magic Audio, maybe be able to add captions that are generated with an AI transcript. We can make it easier for you to create content that you're proud of. It means that more people are able to create content and you get more stories. And I think that that's just the best way for things to be. So our AI, like the stuff that we create using our AI is like all to make creation more accessible, if that makes sense. So it's, adding captions or being able to create chapters without have like in your when you're recording, like saying we spoke about this from this time to this time, so that it's easy for YouTube. That takes one thing off of your long list of things that you have to do before you publish on YouTube, for example. All of that is just to make it easier for you. It's not, I think that like what's really I think that what people are worried about right now with AI is like this idea of replacement or this idea of like inauthenticity that is around AI, because it's hard to be authentic when you're getting something from a robot. With Riverside, what we're doing with our AI tools is like we are keeping the authenticity of the storyteller, but making it easier for the storyteller to tell their story. So that's really what's guiding us.
Mm-hmm. I would agree. I would agree. It definitely makes things easier, and it allows you to really focus your energy on the pieces that require you and your
Yeah.
creativity and your ideas and the conversations you're having and the things that you're sharing.
And make you more confident in doing something. It's like I can do this because there's a tool that's built to be able to make me do this, you know?
Compared to my early days, it's so much easier, so much easier.
Amazing.
Now, when you zoom out and look at the creator ecosystem as a whole, like podcasting really, and I mean, we've been talking about this, is so much more than content creation. It's really this learning space. And
Mhm.
I'm curious about just holistically, how do you see teaching and learning showing up in the world of podcasting and other creator communities?
Oh, in all ways. I think that a lot of podcasting, I think that it's a medium that's based on learning. It's whether or not you're going to learn how to do something. Maybe it's a podcast about like how so and so built their business into a multi-million dollar empire. Sure. But there's also the like learning more about somebody, learning more about human connection, learning more, maybe it's a story like a true crime kind of thing, learning more about exactly what was happening and how a case was solved. I think like with every podcast, it's about learning. It's about being inquisitive and curious. And so I think that it's also a really cool way of learning something new, like being able to like put on your headphones and learn something new on the bus on your way to work. Maybe it's about like listening to the daily and getting your news that way and learning about what's happening in the world. So I think that it's already such a learning forward medium that it's going to continue to be that way. And yeah, I think like really, I think I don't know a single podcast that's not about learning in some way. Even if like I listen to a reality television recap podcast, and that I'm like, I'm learning when I'm listening to that. I'm learning about what people's opinions are. I'm learning about how different people view a certain scene. Like it's about listening and learning to each other. So yeah.
Which is amazing. Yeah, it
Hmm.
really brings more voices and stories and ideas.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. It's
Yeah.
also like for educators, it's like a cool medium that maybe they didn't even think about to be able to
Mhm.
teach people. Like I've learned about history and different current events, but like there are different podcasts that like take a current event and then walk you through the entire history of how we got here. That's so incredibly useful and something that I wouldn't read. Like there's such
Mhm.
a different audio experience for that.
Well, and people learn in so many different ways, and
Hmm.
our like my three have had assigned listenings throughout their school journey, which I love. Yeah, I think it's a great way, besides reading something or talking about it, listening to it is another way to gain a perspective and understanding of something that we're trying to learn about. Now, you've obviously learned a lot along the way in your journey, and you have navigated some really big life transitions. So,
Hmm.
shifting from this sort of bigger view to like you and your journey, like you've moved countries and
Yes.
you've built a life now in a new place and you've become a parent. And
Yes.
I'm curious through like those transitions, what has that taught you about learning and adaptability and maybe even giving yourself some grace in new seasons?
Yeah, I would say, oh, there's a lot. There is a lot that I've learned from all of that. I'll start with moving. I'll say that, like, the big thing for me for moving was that to move, I had to quit my job. And I was at NBC. And as we spoke about, I was very young and I felt very accomplished, very successful to be in that position at that age and at that time. It was after the 2016 election. And so it was a time also when like everyone was like, wow, you're a journalist. What you're doing is so incredibly important, you know? So, and it is, I'm not knocking that. I'm saying that like it really built me up my confidence. And so to leave that to move to another country for my wife, but it was just like my girlfriend at the time, just I think was something that was really hard for me. Like, you're going to give up the success, like the term being success, to then go somewhere else. And at the time, I think what I had to kind of learn was how I define success being different. Like, does success need to be my career in this moment? Can success be moving to another country, learning a new language, settling into a new place, making new friends, building a whole new life for myself? Can that be success right now? Does it have to always be success driven by career? Because I'm like East Coast US born and bred, that like, New York, DC, success is career in a way. So that was a big learning for me, was and now it's like kind of come full circle because I also feel successful in my career. So it all comes. But that was, I think, a big one when I moved. And then on top of that, just learning culture, learning the things that from like, I think that I learned a lot more about my culture when I moved, just because I didn't realize all of the ways in which I was so very American. And then as far as becoming a parent, wow, I feel like I learned something new every day. It's really incredible to watch a child grow up, like to see how even like physically your body progresses, to like said like how they learn how to go from one thing to another, but also how they're taught things, where like what the first things they say are, how they respond to other people. It really like lets you see a part of your life in a way that you don't remember. You know what I mean? Like, everyone develops language, everyone develops physically, but like you don't remember that part of your life. And then to see it and watch it with somebody else, your child, it's just very like 30,000 feet view, like just incredibly cool to see like how people grow up. I don't know. And then on top of that, there's just like a ton more. I could go on forever about what I've learned from being a parent. But recently my daughter started speaking, and it is very cool to hear like the sound of your baby's voice, like it's incredible.
Yeah, it is. It's so amazing to watch these little humans kind of like they're their own little people and sort of,
Yeah.
yeah, doing and learning all the things, and things change every day, especially when they're little. It's like remarkable.
Oh, they like she starts walking and then now she's walking. Like
Yeah.
she's not crawling at all anymore. It's like that kind of, or even like I say like physically, like it's the other day my wife's a doctor. So the other day we were talking about how like there's this whole period when you're a baby or a toddler, I guess, and like you're standing up and sitting down a lot. Like they put things out like on the couch and they'll put things down on the ground and they'll do it over and over again. And it's like actually though, like your body's way of building muscle in your legs to be able to walk, to be able to like, because before that you're just kind of crawling and sitting. So you need to like your body needs to build muscle to be able to walk. It's just really like that stuff is even like very cool. So learning all that, it's yeah, I don't know, now I'm nerding out on this like weird stuff that me and my wife talked about, but it's like it's all very cool. I think that it's like yeah.
It is very cool. And then one day I don't know, my three boys are like all taller than me. And it's just, I don't even know. I feel like I blinked and they're giant.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm even like
Yeah.
looking at pictures of her like 3 months before, and I'm like, look, she's so little. I'm like, she's still little. Like, calm
She's
down.
still little, but when they're little, like the changes are so rapid. Like month to
Yeah.
month, it's like shocking, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And all the new things that they learn, like to all of a sudden just be walking, and now she's walking.
Yeah.
What?
And then
Yeah.
and then suddenly I have to move all of the stuff
Yeah.
off my shelves. And then suddenly this beautiful home that I've curated for years
Yes.
is now completely rearranged so that she doesn't knock over any of my ceramics that I made when I had time for a hobby. So
it will start to change where
yeah.
I'll tell you, yes, like just now once in a while my husband and I look at each other and we're like, do we have something that we need to be doing right now or somewhere where we need to be once in a while? And the answer is no, and we're like, whoa.
What? Whoa.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
no,
I
it's
can't relate right now.
no.
Can't
And
relate.
but you will. You will.
Yeah.
I promise. Yes.
Good. One day I'll watch Bridgerton.
Right.
One day.
That's why podcasts are good, because you can do multiple things at the same time. Yes.
Yeah, I'm even like thinking about it. I'm like, should I do audiobooks? I miss reading, but like that's not going to be.
I shifted to audiobooks actually, and it makes me look forward to cleaning bathrooms because I can like listen to a podcast or an audiobook. It's like a treat.
Yeah, washing dishes has never been such a highlight.
Right. It's like
a silent little moment.
I love this so much.
Yeah.
I very much relate. So obviously your daughter sounds like in a way she's been a great teacher for you. You're learning so much from her. And I wonder, looking back on your journey, do you have a favorite teacher, someone who's really taught you or influenced you in some way? And then I'd be curious to know why that person means so much to you.
So I would say that when you were saying that, I'll add a quick learning, which is that I think I also like it's like having a child makes you be like kinder to yourself, but also stand up for yourself a little bit more. But as far as teacher, I will actually say a mentor of mine was, his name's Paul Singer. Shout out to Paul Singer. He was my editor when I was in college as an intern for USA Today. And he was like dead set on helping me get a job. So he would tell me all of the connections that he's made as a journalist, and he'd have me email every one of them and say like, Singer sent me was the subject line. And then I'd have coffees with people. I'd learn from them. I'd see if they're hiring. And like when I moved, I ended up calling him. Singer sent me back to him. And I was just like, what do you think about this move? And he like completely helped me feel better about it. I think that what really stood out to me was that there was this belief in me and this feeling like he really wanted to help me. What we talked about before, like being seen and being heard and being recognized. I think that it's very easy to live in your own world. And I think that it's really incredible when somebody goes out of their way to say, I want to make a difference in your world. Where do you see your world going, and helping you get there?
Mm-hmm. I love that was the subject line.
I actually like I'll write to him sometime. Like a couple of years ago I wrote to him. I think I said like, Singer sent me. It's just become, and I ended up getting like jobs later from those conversations. His intern previously was Casey Hunt, who's now at CNN, and I actually was her producer, and we met because Singer had sent me like 7 years before that. It's really paid it forward. It was I hope to be able to do that for somebody in the future.
Mm-hmm. It's always
Kendall sent me.
Right? Kendall sent me. It'll be the
Yeah.
the new subject. Yeah, the new
Mhm.
subject line. But it's so nice to have somebody in your corner and to be that connector for you, because you just never know, right? It can really open a door or an opportunity for somebody.
Huge impact. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Now, when you look back on your journey so far, what would be something you're the most proud of?
I would say I am the most proud of what we talked about before, like taking the chance on myself and moving and starting a new life. I think that was an incredible step for me. I think it took a lot of guts for me to do that, and it was very hard to do that, but I think that it yielded the best thing in my life. I think that I took a bet on myself and what happiness was supposed to be for me, and I think that it's sometimes very intimidating to bet on your happiness. And so, yeah, it would be that, hands down.
And we've talked, about how teaching and learning and education plays such a big part in, well, your own life, but also in the podcasting world and in the community that you lead and are a part of. So I'm just wondering if you have any final thoughts or words of wisdom to share with people to sort of inspire them and empower them on their own teaching and learning journeys.
I would say to never underestimate the power of human connection. I think that going out of your way to be able to connect with somebody better, I think that first of all, it's going to help you in whatever you're doing. But second of all, I just think that it's, at least for me, it really, like, that's what life is about for me. Like, it's about being curious and learning, but I think that it's also from the connection that comes with learning, whether that's learning from somebody and really feeling inspired by them and connecting with them. I think that continuing to have these human connections and have that be what leads you, I think that that's just what life is about. Does that make any sense? I'm like trying to come up with I'm trying to like impart the best wisdom, but really for me that's been what's guided me. Also, another one would be, actually learned this one from Gigi Hadid, but the she was saying that like when she went to photo shoots, that she would always try to make one friend in the room. And I've also used that as a guide for myself, even before I'd heard her say that, but she summed it up better than I did, and I'll credit her for that. That when like I like to try for every new experience that I have to make one new friend in that room. And I think that that's just about leading with your authentic self, leading by being friendly, leading by being kind to one another. And so, yeah, I think that that's made my life better. So try it out. Hopefully it makes yours better too.
I love that. And yeah, human connection, I think we need that more than ever right now.
Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah. Kendall, I want to thank you so very much for sharing your time and your story and all your words of wisdom with us today. If
Thank
people
you.
are curious about you and want to learn more about you and about Riverside, where would be the best places to find you?
So I'm on LinkedIn, and you can also find me in our community. It's Conversation Creators by Riverside on Facebook. And you can learn more about Riverside, just riverside.com. We have a YouTube channel. We're on social media. So wherever you get your information, wherever you get your learning from, check it out. But come to the community. It's a cool place.
It is a cool place. I would agree with you. Thank you so much for joining me today, Kendall. It was so lovely to chat with you, to get to know you, and to learn from you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me. This is a lot of fun.